Well, good morning, Southwest. We're so glad that you joined us this morning, this January morning. We hope that you are just enjoying your new year and looking forward to the season ahead. We're going to sing songs this morning that just declare that God is always in control, that He always has a way, and that He has a plan. And at the very end, we're going to sing The Blessing, which is a song that we want to just pray over each other and our community, just to say that God is always there, that He will give us peace, that He will be with us. And we just want to declare those words over our church, over our lives. So join us this morning in worship as we sing together.
But it won't prosper. Oh, when the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. Oh, my God will never fail. Yeah, my God will never fail. I'm gonna see victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. Oh, every war He wages, He will win. Oh, I'm not backing down from any giant. I know how this story ends. Yes, I know how this story ends. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, yeah, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. Yeah, you turn it for good. We declare that you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You turn it around. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. Yeah, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory, for the battle belongs to you, Lord. the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, you're touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're turning lives around. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you, I worship you. 'Cause you are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. And even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are, you are, you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. 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 That's who you are, God. You're the waymaker and the miracle worker. You are a king forever. You are beautiful. Thank you that you watch us, protect us. You see our comings and our goings. Your presence is always near us. And your blessing is on us from generation to generation to generation. There's nowhere that we can go to run from your presence. We love you. gracious to you. The Lord turned his face toward you and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace. Sing amen. His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and the children, and the children. May his presence go before you, and behind you, and beside you, all around you, and within you. He is with you, he is with you. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and your children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning and the evening, in your coming and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is with you, he is for 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 you, yeah. Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give you peace.
Hi Southwest, Selena here with your Kids Spotlight. Jesus and 12 of his closest friends were sitting at a prepared table celebrating the Passover feast. And the atmosphere in the room was one that kind of had people on edge. You see, Jesus knew that that very night he would be betrayed by someone at that table. And it had his heart troubled. And he wanted to give his friends a heads up that hard times were coming. So he told them that he would be betrayed. and that he would also be going somewhere where they could not come with him. This caused all of his friends to also have troubled hearts. We're starting a new series called Abide. And in this series, we're going to be learning what that word abide means and how we can practice it from learning from John chapter 14 and 15 in the Bible. I don't know about you, but my heart often can feel troubled, feel lonely, afraid, sad, misunderstood, confused, frustrated, angry, and so much more. And it's not wrong for our hearts to feel troubled, but it is very important that we know what to do when our hearts feel troubled. And today, Jesus has something very important to say to any hearts that are feeling troubled in John chapter 14, verses 1 to 6. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me also. There are many rooms in my Father's house. If this were not true, would I have told you that I'm going there? Would I have told you that I would prepare a place for you there? If I go and do that, I will come back, and I will take you to be with me. Then you will also be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. And I so appreciate Thomas's honest and open response to Jesus's profound statement here. And he says, Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. When our hearts are troubled, Jesus invites us to come and believe in him. And when we choose to believe in him, when we choose to trust him, we are given the gift of a forever hope, of getting to spend eternity or forever with God in heaven. A hope that cannot be stolen, restricted, or stopped. When we start to feel our hearts getting troubled, it is this hope in Jesus that allows us to take a deep breath and rest. We can remember that Jesus is the way. Jesus is our hope. Jesus takes your faith seriously. And Jesus is coming back soon to take everyone who chooses to believe in him to spend forever with him in heaven. Let that truth calm your troubled heart. On the watch page of our website, you can find a kid's note pack and a coloring page that'll follow along with the rest of our time together today. We'll see you next week, Southwest.
Good morning, Southwest Community Church. Thanks for joining our online service today. We would love it if you would let us know that you've joined us by signing our digital friendship book. There's a QR code on the screen that will help you get there. It's quick and easy to sign, and it's encouragement for us if you take a moment to do that now. Southwest, just before I give you a few announcements, just wanted to let you know that we had a strong financial finish at the end of 2020. Want to say thank you for your amazing support and prayers of Southwest Community Church. You are such a blessing. Now, as we head into 2021, we thought that it would be an awesome encouragement for each other to be reading scripture together. So we are going to start a reading plan called The Essential Jesus. and you will find that on the YouVersion Bible app. So download that app if you don't already have it and join in on this reading plan. It's going to be an encouragement for all of us to be doing that together. There's a group right on the app that you can be a part of and just put in comments or questions, and so that we can all be reading those comments and questions. It's an encouragement. We started it this week, so it's not too late to join. It's a 100-day reading plan, so there's lots of time still. So please join in on that reading plan. You can just download the app. Also go to our e-bulletin and click on the link and fill out the quick form just to let us know that you're going to be reading with us, so we can add you to that group right in the app. This coming Sunday, we are going to have a prayer summit together on Zoom at 7 p.m. I just want to encourage you to join in with us in prayer. It's so important as we head into 2021 to be praying together. And then that prayer summit will launch us in to 2 weeks of prayer and fasting. So over this next week, you can be thinking and praying about what God is leading you to fast from. We are launching into a brand new series today called Abide, and Pastor Ken is going to kick off that series. The series is really about digging into John chapter 14 and 15. These are really rich passages that we're going to be digging into. So I'm excited to hear what God has placed on Pastor Ken's heart. Roland Key is going to read our scripture for us today. And right now we are going to have a video that talks a little bit more about our sermon today. All right, Southwest, that's it for our highlights. We'll see you soon.
It happened. The unthinkable. The shift that showed our frailty. Nonetheless, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. We are separated. We are isolated. And in this world, we have trouble. Nonetheless, we take heart because Jesus has overcome the world. We are conflicted and frustrated, weary too. But nonetheless, those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. We are down but not out, sidelined but still in the game. We fight for our families, we hold on to love, we strive for kindness, but the hard times get harder. Nonetheless, we are more than conquerors through Him who loves us. We walk through adversity. We are sons and daughters of the Most High. We know to whom we belong, and we know where our hope lies. For He is the first and the last, the Alpha and Omega, the one who is and the one who is to come. It looks bleak, they say it's grim, there's a lot to fear, but nonetheless, we are strong. We are courageous. We are the church.
The Gospel of John, chapter 14, verses 1 to 6, from the New Living Translation. Jesus, the way to the Father. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, and trust also in me. There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you, so that you will always be with me where I am, and you know the way to where I am going. No, we don't know, Lord, Thomas said. We have no idea where you are going, so how can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. The word of the Lord.
Good morning. Well, the Beatles, Paul McCartney in particular, wrote a song in 1965. Some of you will remember it. It was called Yesterday. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. You know, McCartney captured the feeling of moving from a heart that was feeling okay to a heart that began to be very troubled. Not surprisingly, it was the pain of a broken relationship for him that was causing his flashbacks. Yesterday was good, everything was fine, and life was wonderful, and now things are different. Well, friends, we're shifting this morning to a new series of messages which will bring us right into the Easter season, which does seem a long ways away right now, but it's coming quickly. And the name of our new series is simply called Abide. Abide. We're going to drill down in two of the most wonderful chapters of the Bible, John 14 and John 15. These two chapters are like driving on a road trip and seeing spectacular scenery along the way, but arriving at your destination at the end of the day, and the final stop is breathtaking, spectacular, and everybody says, wow, you saved the best for the last. Not only a great view, but you get a chance to do some of your own exploring. And I hope you will find your own shovels and hoes and garden forks and crowbars and backhoes or whatever you have to, and just do some excavating with me. I think there's a lot of gold to be mined in these verses in John 14 and 15. So let's excavate together because I think you'll only find some of the gold when you do your own digging. I'm digging with you, but no doubt you'll make some discoveries that I didn't see. So when you have an insight or a word of discovery from the Lord, I would also love to hear it. So I want just to invite you to email me or text me and just let me know. Well, we're going to start today, and I know we're not going to get too far, but we're going to pack the car and start driving on our John 14 and 15 expedition. I heard a fun little fictional story the other day about a middle-aged lady who died and arrived at the gates of heaven. And she's waiting for St. Peter to greet her and open the gates. And as she pokes through the gates and just kind of looks around, she sees a banquet table and a number of family members who had gone on ahead of her. And they were sitting around enjoying this wonderful time. And then she sees other people that she's loved and lost while on earth, and they all greet her and they say, "Glad to see you. We've been waiting for you." About that time, St. Peter walks in and she says, "I've been waiting for you to open the gate. I can't wait to go in and see everyone. Can I go in now?" she said. "Well, yes," he said, "but you have to be able to spell one word." "Well, what's the word?" She asked. "What word do I have to spell?" "Well, it's the word love." "Oh," she said, "sure, I can do that. It's Love. And immediately the gates opened and she comes in. Well, about 1.5 years of earth time passes, and Peter asked her one day if she would look after the gates for him on this particular day, and she takes over the job, and before you know it, she looks out, and behold, the gate, right outside the gate is her husband who has arrived. And she is so surprised. She looks at him, and he has a big smile on his face, and she says, "Hi, how have you been?" "Great," he said. "Remember that gorgeous nurse that took care of you? I married her 6 weeks after you were gone. We've had a terrific time. Matter of fact, we won the lottery, $100 million. She drove a Lamborghini and I got a Ferrari. And you know, we sold that little place where you and I lived and we bought a big place and we're really fixed up. We're really set. Man, it's terrific. Kind of a bummer to get here. But by the way, how do I get in here?" She, as you can imagine, is still recovering from the shock of his words. So she says, "Well, you have to spell a word." "Spell a word?" he asked. "Well, what word?" "Czechoslovakia," she said to him. Can you believe it? She told him, "Czechoslovakia. You have to spell Czechoslovakia if you want to get in." Oh my, just a little fun this morning. But by the way, this insensitive guy who thought he had it so good on earth totally is an exception. Not that many people are satisfied with earth. Most people I know have more complaints about earth than we think about yesterday. Yesterday is on our mind. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. That's more the reality. Most of us don't live that way. Most of us live in the reality that this is a world of troubles and woe, and heartache and downers and disappointment and phone calls in the middle of the night that we never expected. Czechoslovakia, you got to be kidding. John 14 is where we put our feet into the starting blocks today. It's a passage that usually we think of at a funeral, because almost at every funeral, these words find their way into the sermon or a scripture reading or words spoken at the graveside. So as the starter gun goes off in John 14, the very first words are, "Let not your hearts be troubled." Wow. Those are the words of Jesus. Let not your hearts be troubled. When we talk about heart troubles, we're not referring to troubles with our physical heart. I remember my cardiologist saying the words to me that I didn't want to hear. He said, "We can't solve your problem with an angioplasty. We need to do open heart surgery." I know you don't want to hear that, but it's the best solution. And he was so right. No, I totally didn't want to hear his prescription for a troubled physical heart. This is not a chapter that works itself out by saying, just put a little small amount of nitroglycerin under your tongue and life will be fine. Or watch your diet, or take some medication for high blood pressure and all will be well. No, this is not the troubling of your physical heart. In fact, you can have the most perfect specimen of a healthy heart and yet have a troubled heart. Quite often when I see people at church, which seems so long ago, I typically don't see people with troubled hearts. Not that they don't have troubled hearts, but simply we've learned how to do kind of a great block of our feelings. We've learned to put on a mask so our troubled heart is not seen. And sometimes that's what we have to do. I understand that. But not all the time. There are times when we need to have a person or two in our lives that we can say, yes, I'm not doing well. My heart is really troubled these days. I'm feeling terrible in my heart. That's healthier than just stuffing it. But I understand sometimes it's easier to stuff it and wait for the right place and the right person to unstuff it all. Even Jesus had a troubled heart. So we're in good company. By the way, I don't think at all that to be a follower of Christ means that we won't have a troubled heart. I don't think you can get through this life without having a troubled heart at times. But the question is, what do you do with a troubled heart? What do you do with a troubled heart? I can take you back this morning just one chapter in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, and you see the same emphasis. Now Jesus was deeply troubled, and he exclaimed, "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me." Now Jesus was deeply troubled. Betrayal will certainly bring a troubled heart. There's some very troubling things that are happening in this world. And when we come to these places in life, it's pretty hard to not have a troubled heart. It really is. Just this past week, a helicopter accident in northern Alberta claimed the lives of a mom and dad and 2 children. The oldest 2 children were not in the helicopter, so they're alive. But can you imagine their troubled hearts these days? In one fatal day, I lost my mom and dad and 2 of my siblings. So a troubled heart is something common to all of us. What we see on TV these days is troubling to our hearts as thousands of protesters descended on Washington, D.C. What a difficult time for our American friends. Their country is divided. Our Canadian hockey team and fans had a troubled heart this past week when the American squad of young guys beat our team in playing for the gold. I said, how can it be that they can beat us? We've never lost a game in the whole series. But they played really well. And they left us with troubled hearts. But that kind of troubled heart doesn't last very long for most of us. We forget about it and we say, oh well, next year. Jesus had a troubled heart at one point, and then when he saw that his disciples had troubled hearts, he offers them encouragement. Jesus wants to help us when we go through times when our hearts are troubled. So 2 times in chapter 14, Jesus offers these helpful words. In verse 1, Jesus says, don't let your hearts be troubled. And then if you have a Bible with you this morning, you will see how helpful verse 27 is. Jesus says, I am leaving you with a gift. Peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. There it is again. Don't be troubled. Don't let your heart be troubled. Now, there's usually pretty good reason why our hearts are troubled. I mean, something has happened to fill us with fear or anger or frustration or anxiety or disappointment or rejection, whatever it might be. Why did Jesus say these words to his closest guys, his disciples? I mean, what were his team feeling? It helps us to know why. I mean, why is my friend upset? Why are they feeling the way they're feeling? What's causing their hearts to be upset? Why are the hearts of the disciples troubled? Check out the hearts of the disciples. First, they're troubled because of what Jesus says. First, he tells them that he's going away. He's going away. I mean, what does he mean he's going away? It means he's going to die. He's going to die on the cross. Dear children, I will be with you only a little longer. And as I told the Jewish leaders, you will search for me, but you can't come where I'm going. John 13:33. Just moments before that, Jesus tells his disciples that one of them will betray him. I mean, can you imagine how gut-wrenching that must have been? Is it me? Do I not know myself? Peter motioned to John. He said, ask him, who is it? Who's going to betray him? So their hearts were troubled because of someone in their midst who was a betrayer. And they didn't know what to do with that. And then thirdly, there was this whole sense of denial, remember, by Peter? Peter says to Jesus, why can't I come with you? I'm ready to die for you if necessary. And Jesus says, die for me? Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow, you will have denied me 3 times. Oh, don't be too sure, Peter, that you've got it all together. In less than a day, you will be a total emotional wreck. Oh my goodness. Do you see why they had troubled hearts? They're troubled because Jesus just dropped a number of bombshells on them. Really, what the disciples were concerned about are the very same things that we're concerned about. Number 1, death. And COVID-19 has stirred this up to the 9th degree in our lives these days. Every evening, the news seems to illustrate someone who has just lost a father or a mother, and sometimes it's a young person. I mean, if you have someone in your life who has just died, you have a troubled heart. If you have someone in your life who is very sick, you have a troubled heart. I mean, it's normal. It's natural. It's hard to be peaceful in your heart when someone close to you is clinging to life. So one of the prominent reasons that our hearts are troubled in this world is the fragility of our health and death and sickness and all that we have to go through in that realm. The second area of trouble is the constant bombardment of daily problems. For the disciples, it was the fact that Jesus was leaving them. He was going away. And they weren't sure where he was going. It wasn't clear in their minds, but they just heard him say that he was leaving them. Well, now what would they do? Where would they go? And they're trying to figure out where that kind of leaves them. We don't want to be alone. And sometimes, those are the realities of life. Your children grow up and they leave the country. They leave the city. They move somewhere else. When Marg and I left to go to Ontario for our first pastorate, our parents were saying, we'll never see you again. I mean, other than vacation. Ontario is the end of the world. You will always be away from us. Well, that wasn't true, but that's the way they felt. The brokenness of relationships are the same thing today. When there's a brokenness of a relationship, it feels like someone has gone away, and we're left to manage without them. Daily problems, I mean, we've probably all had to tackle some new problems because of the pandemic. Some are having to live extremely close to the wire, financially speaking. Financial pressure is like none other. Here I'm juggling which bill to pay first and hope that the other bills can wait without consequence. That's an enormous pressure. And here are our frontline workers who are doing a terrific job of plugging the gaps day after day after day. And some of our nurses and doctors are exhausted, but they push on because it's the reality of where we're at right now. But friends, please know that you're appreciated. Thank you for all that you're doing. And teachers, they're trying to come alongside their students. And it's a difficult year. Sometimes they're in in-person class, and sometimes they're online, and you just got to be flexible and ready to flex at any moment. The third area of trouble that we have is the area of disobedience. For Peter, it was denial. Oh, yes, I'll be with you right to the end. No question of my loyalty. Then the next day, Peter says of his master, I don't even know this man. I've never met him. Don't accuse me of being his follower. I don't know the man. Well, you know how that's going to play out in Peter's heart and mind in the days and weeks to come. He's sick about it. I mean, he's so disappointed with himself. His heart is so troubled. And it's like every one of us when we're disobedient to God. Immediately we feel this troubling of the heart. Maybe we've gotten ourselves mixed up in some kind of activity that has become a rather nasty moral situation. And here we are in the midst of it, and we wonder, how did we ever get here? And it can be chalked up to disobedience. Disobedience. Somewhere along the line, we took our eyes off Jesus, and we gave in to something that brought nothing but agony and pain and confusion. When you think of it, probably everything that we're experiencing in terms of a troubled heart can be seen right here in John 13. And there are three huge umbrellas for everything we go through that troubles our hearts. What does death or disease do? It puts a fear in our hearts. What do our daily problems do? They produce anxiety and depression and the inability to cope and frustration and often a sense of hopelessness. And what does disobedience do? Well, it always produces guilt. And we walk for perhaps days or months, maybe years in guilt, and therefore we have a troubled heart. My troubled heart probably lies in one of these three categories. So that's the diagnosis of the problem, the diagnosis of our heart problems. But more important, I think, than the diagnosis is the medicine for our troubled hearts. Well, there's not a lot of medicine that we can take to cure a broken heart or a troubled heart, although admittedly we tend to try to see if something either over the counter or behind the counter might work. I mean, I can't imagine the Tylenol and ibuprofen that we use every year to help our body cope. And sometimes the root cause is not a body problem, but a heart problem, which leads to a body malfunction. I want us to see God's solutions for troubled hearts. I mean, he gives us some great direction that changes everything. And the first one is trust God. Trust God. Don't let your hearts be troubled, Jesus said. Trust in God, trust also in me. That's what Jesus said to his guys. Don't let your hearts be troubled. I know you have a lot on your hearts and a lot on your minds right now, but here's what I want you to know. Trust God and trust me. Friends, sometimes it's worth making the distinction between believing and trusting. I mean, you can have a chair in the middle of your kitchen, and if you ask me if I believe that there's actually a chair there, I would say, well, yes, I could see it. It's there. And if you ask me if it will hold my weight, I would probably say, yes, I believe it. I believe in my mind that the chair no doubt has the capacity, the capability to hold me up. But if you want to know the definition of trust, it's when I walk over to that chair and sit down on it. Now I'm really going to trust the chair to hold my weight. I trust that it will hold me, that it won't crash to the floor. I just don't theoretically believe, I actually trust and step up. So it's one thing to say I believe it will hold me up, and it's quite another thing to get on the chair. The difference between belief and trust is that trusting is actually sitting on the chair and finding out by experience that it will hold your weight. It's the same idea, as the guy who pushed a wheelbarrow across a tightrope. at the top of Niagara Falls? Half a mile away from the falls, he stretched out a line, a rope, from one side of the river to another. And then he said to the crowd, do you think I can push this wheelbarrow across the tightrope? And everybody said, yeah, I think you could do it. And he went and he got the wheelbarrow and he actually did it. He pushed that wheelbarrow on that tightrope all the way across the river. And then he came back to the crowd and he said, do you think I could push a person across the tightrope seated in the wheelbarrow? And everybody said, well, yeah, I actually believe that you can do it. Then he said, okay, well, let's see who wants to get in the wheelbarrow. And you know, that's real trust, when you actually get in the wheelbarrow. And that's what Jesus says to his disciples. Now, you don't understand everything that's happening to you at this time, and you are struggling, and your heart is troubled. But now, guys, I want you to trust me. You trust God, and I also want you to trust me. We've been together for 3 years, you know, and you know who I am. And now I'm asking you to really trust me. When we get heart trouble, we need to trust the Lord. Not just I believe in God, but literally trusting that he can bear the weight of what we're experiencing. One of the most classic, famous, oft-quoted and memorized scripture is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. And you know, the reason why that verse is so often quoted and memorized is because deep down in our souls we know that that verse is powerful, that it's life-changing. And it is the strength. It's the strength in our lives to help get us through our heart trouble, trusting in the Lord with all that we have. You see, when you give your life to Christ, you become a child of God. And although you won't be free of all the stuff that everybody else experiences, you do have a Father you can trust. And you do have Jesus Christ, whom you can trust. And Jesus says, when you come to those troubled moments of life, I want you to come to me, and I want you to tell me, and I want you to trust me that I've got it, that I'm with you, and I have it. So you will find relief for your troubled heart. And when you really know Jesus and you trust him for whatever is going on in your heart, you will know his relief and his strength. Trust him. Jesus says to his men, you've known about God all your life, and I want you to trust him. And you've been in my company for 3 years, and you know who I am, so I want you also to trust me. What is he doing? He's actually moving himself onto a plane of equality with the Father. He's speaking to them not only as a man, but also as God. And Jesus is going to give them some profound truth that they have never heard before. Yes, at the end of the day, you drive up to this final scenic spot of the day and you step out of your car to explore the richness of what you see. And it's amazing. You've never seen this view before. Jesus says, now I want you to really trust me. You've trusted God, who you've learned about from the Old Testament, but I'm with you, and I want you to know who I am and that you can trust me for your future. Well, that leads us to the second beautiful scenic lookout, and that's the confidence of our future. The confidence of our future. There is more than enough room in my Father's home, Jesus says. If this were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? The second solution for a troubled heart is the security of the future. If you've been watching any of the Hallmark Christmas movies during the holiday break, you know one thing. You know how the story ends. I always say to Mark about 20 minutes before the movie ends that there is some dramatic tension about to explode, and you say, oh, this friendship is not going to work out. And then the writer of the script has about 17 minutes to solve the problem. And of course, everything works out in the end, and everybody is happy. So about 20 minutes before movie end, you watch that something's going to happen. We're kind of checking our watch. Wait for it. But don't worry, it will all be well. These movies are designed to end well. But Jesus was telling us how things can be well in our hearts as we trust him. And he gives us a picture of our future. And he tells us that he's going ahead to prepare us a place. And then for double reinforcement, he assures them that I wouldn't tell you all this if it wasn't true. There's more to come. There's a place that I'm preparing for you. Look at what he says. There's more than enough room in my Father's home. Jesus is telling his men, life gets messy. We make mistakes. We sin. We deny ourselves. We deny Jesus, and we feel horrible. But there's coming a day when all of this will be left behind, and we will be with Jesus forever. So Jesus says, I want you to live in that reality. And friends, isn't that how it is with us? Oh Lord, things are messy. I've been upset. I've been paralyzed with worry, and right now it's just so hard. But one day we will be with the Lord forever. Your future is secure. You will always be with me, Jesus says. You know, that ought to give you and me a peace in our hearts. Even though it's rough right now, it's really going to be fine. One day it's going to be really fine. You know, we used to translate this verse from the King James Version as mansions. In my Father's house are many mansions. And that was a cool translation because we all got ourselves to thinking of owning some pretty expensive real estate in heaven. But you know what? It's actually translated room or apartment. One guy didn't like the revision of the meaning of the word because he had lived in an apartment all his life, and somehow room or apartment didn't quite cut it for what he expected heaven to be. Another apartment? But, you know, actually we should look past the specifics. The Greek word is monai, which simply means to abide. And it kind of fits well with the title of our series, Abide. One day we will abide in heaven. One day we will be in heaven. And it's an abode, it's a room, it's a place. We will be abiding with Jesus. But the word doesn't imply mansion. It simply means room. It means a place to live. Now, in case you just got a disappointing picture of a huge congested apartment in heaven, I wouldn't put that in my mind either, because you know God, and you know whatever God does will be just amazing. What will be wonderful about heaven is where God is and where Jesus is. And that will make it heaven, to be with him. But I think heaven will be full of surprises and adventures. What is the Father's house or home? In my Father's house. Most of us would say, well, the Father's house, that's probably a reference to heaven. Heaven is the place where God dwells. And yet we don't have a lot of information about heaven. There's a verse in Isaiah, it's a great verse, that kind of broadens our concept of heaven. The Lord says, heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Isaiah 66, verse 1. And you get a sense of vastness with this verse. The implication of that verse is that God dwells in the entire universe, that this vast cosmos is the Father's home. The earth we live in is just a tiny part of the Father's house. There are many rooms in this house. Oh, I wonder what that really means. There are many rooms in this house. There are many places to live. Doesn't that excite you to think about what heaven might look like? We just have no grasp at all with respect to the immensity of God's house. If you ever plan to visit even the nearest star on your sabbatical or in your retirement, you should have left yesterday. This universe is beyond comprehension. My heart takes a little leap when I think of it all, because I look at our own little terrestrial ball that we live on, and I think that what God did in creation here alone on planet Earth is incredible. But what more is out there in God's big house, and where Earth is just his footstool? Jesus is the creator of all of this, and he says to his men, perhaps he's looking heavenward as he says that in my Father's house, the place where God dwells, there are many places to live. Now, Jesus wants to encourage his men and let them see why their hearts don't need to be troubled. So the first is that Jesus is leaving so that he can prepare a place for them to come later. And the second is that Jesus is coming back for us. When everything is ready, I'll come back and I'll get you. We will continue to dig into these verses next week. I just encourage you to get out your shovel and dig around a little bit and see what precious gold you can discover. I want us to take a quiet moment to ask the Lord, what do you want to say to me today? Maybe you already know. Maybe the Holy Spirit just touched on something in your life as we've been looking through the Scripture. Just whatever that is, just bring it to the Lord and say, Lord, my heart's troubled about this, but I trust you. I trust you. So let's just bow together for a moment. Lord, often our hearts are troubled. And how often we need to hear from you again and again that we can trust you, that we can trust our Father, and we can trust you, Lord Jesus. So thank you for being trustworthy. We want to say that to you today. Thank you for being a great God who is able to carry all of our stuff through this journey. Thank you for the helper, the Holy Spirit, who lives inside of us to give us peace, to give us your awesome peace and joy. Touch our hearts anew today and paint a new picture in our hearts, a picture of your tranquility and peace. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you, friends.
Thanks, Pastor Ken, for taking us into the beginning of John chapter 14, helping us understand why the disciples were troubled back then. And there's so many reasons, as we know, for our hearts to be troubled now. But let's end our service with this important verse in Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you. God, I just pray that our thoughts would be fixed on you. Despite what may be going on in the news or what we see on the news in relation to the pandemic, maybe things that are going on for us at work or at school or at home, God, I just pray through all of that, we would keep our eyes and our thoughts fixed on you. God, just fill us with your perfect peace as we head into this week. Give us the discipline to spend time in your presence, to spend time in your word and reading your word and praying. We ask all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, Southwest. Have an awesome Sunday. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.